Hello everybody, and welcome back to Certified Collectibles. This is another episode of First Appearance of the Week. This is Wednesday, July 5th, 2023. We'll be giving you all the first appearance in your comic shops today. Now this week we have a pretty long video for you guys. I think probably the longest one we've had in quite some time. We have 14 titles in all to go through, 6 first appearances, 8 honorable mentions. Definitely some books in there you guys should pick up for your collection. So let's go ahead and get started for the first appearance of the week ending July 7th, 2023. First up from DC Comics, Night Terror's First Blood #1. This features the first cameo appearance of Insomnia. Now we always mention this with the DC Comics. It really depends on what they do with these characters as to how important they're going to be in the future. You know, if DC introduces these characters into a small screen, big screen project, bring these characters across other storylines, other story arcs, into some of the mainstay title series, then these characters definitely have a little bit more staying power and they might be more relevant in the future. But this new character, Insomnia, we really don't know much about this character and what DC has planned for it. If the character just exists within this particular title, this character may go nowhere in the future. So this one here will be a little bit more speculative if you choose to pick it up. But like we always mention, maybe worth doing so for the cover price. For $3 or $4, you could be sitting on a huge winner. You don't want to chase these down later on for a lot more money. So pick this one here up for your collection for a spec bet if you can. If you can't, though, put it in your B-list and take a look at it later on. Next up from DC Comics, Night Terror's Ravager #1. This features the first appearance of Murder Man and the Slaughter Squadron. Like we just mentioned, it really depends on what DC does with these characters they're introducing as to how important these books are going to be in the future. This particular title features the first appearance of Murder Man and Slaughter Squadron. We really don't know anything about this particular team or this particular character, so once again, this will be a little more speculative if you choose to pick it up. Grab it if you can for a spec bet. If not, though, put it on your B-list and take a look at it later on. Next up from DC Comics, STEELWORKS #2. This features the first full appearance of the Silver Mist. Now, STEELWORKS is a new title series for DC Comics, but the first issue was well received, so this particular title series may become popular with fans. It's really too early to tell at this point, but if it does, you know, these first appearances will definitely be worth owning in the future. Like we always mention with these DC Comics, it really depends on what they do with these characters, how hard they push these particular title series. So just like the previous two, this one here will be a little bit more speculative if you choose to pick it up. Maybe worth doing so if you can. If you can't, though, put it on your B-list and take a look at it later on. Next up from Marvel Comics, Captain Marvel Dark Tempest #1. This features the first appearance of Nada, a cosmic threat. This also features the reintroduction of Nitro. Now with Marvel Comics, we do recommend picking up the first appearance of new characters in the Marvel titles. You know, Marvel Disney is still churning out a ton of media, whether it's for the small screen and big screen, and you really don't know where any of these characters they're introducing on the comics are going to end up. If they do hit the small screen and big screen, become popular with fans, these characters will blow up, people will race back to the comics and try to find the first appearance. So that's why we always recommend picking up these first appearances. You know, Disney, Marvel, not going anywhere. They're churning out a ton of media. So in our opinion, this is probably one worth picking up for your collection. Go ahead and grab this one. Next up from Marvel Comics, Edge of Spider-Verse #4. This features the first appearance of Uncle Ruckus. This also features the first appearance of Headline, a J. Jonah Jameson version of Spider-Man. This is also the first solo story featuring Dream Spider. Now, with all the Spider-Man titles, anytime there's a first appearance of a new character in a Spider-Man title, we always recommend picking these up. You know, Spider-Man are probably the most popular and most heavily collected of all the Marvel franchises, so anytime there's a first appearance of a new character, these are books you definitely want to own. Go ahead and grab this one. And finally, from Marvel Comics, Extreme VENOMVERSE #4. This features the first appearance of Necroco, aka Billy, a manga version of Venom. This also features the first appearance of Flora, a plant-based symbiote, and the first appearance of venom-noir. Now, we all know how popular Spider-Man Noir was, so it's probably worth picking this up just for the venom-noir character itself. But like we always mention, with any of these Venom titles, anything in the Spider-Man universe, these are books you want to own when they have first appearance of new characters. And in this particular title, you do have 3 first appearances of new characters, so this one here is one we definitely think you should pick up for your collection. And now for the honorable mentions. From Scout Comics, E-Junkie #1. A bored, thrill-seeking experience junkie takes a dose of a new alternative reality drug known as Torch, which causes him to experience the memory of a train wreck that took place hundreds of years ago from the perspective of a long-deceased passenger. Now, Scout Comics has a lot of their titles picked up an option for small screen and big screen projects in the past, and this one here sounds like it lends itself very well to a TV show, streaming series, or feature film. You know, at Scout Comics, we typically do recommend these for spec bets, because a lot of times these are undersold when they come out, the distribution is not as great as some of the other small press houses, and the print runs also are not usually as large. So when the Scout Comics do become option, these books blow up in the secondary market, so these are books you want to own when they come out at the cover price. This one here will be a spec bet if you choose to pick it up, but like I say, with Scout Comics, it's always a good idea. $3 or $4, you could be sitting on a winner. Grab this one here if you can. If you can't, though, put it in your B-list, but definitely keep an eye on this one. Next up from Scout Comics, Magician's Rabbit #1. In a post-apocalyptic world where humanity has embraced robotic bodies to survive, one such robot begins to doubt his thoughts are really his own. Now, once again, this sounds like it lends itself very well to a small screen, big screen project, and like we just mentioned with Scout Comics, they've had a lot of their titles picked up and optioned in the past, and when these books get optioned, they do skyrocket in the secondary market. So once again, this is a spec bet if you choose to pick it up, but with Scout Comics, we do typically recommend picking them up for specs. Grab this one here if you can. If you can't, put it on your B-list, but definitely keep an eye on this one as well. Next up from Mad Cave, Under the Influence #1. The FBI investigates a deadly prank launched by an internet cult led by a teenage sociopath. You know, Mad Cave has been producing a lot of titles lately that have been getting a lot of attention. They haven't had a lot of their titles picked up and optioned in the past, but you know, that's not really to say they won't in the future. And this one here sounds like it lends itself very well to a TV show, streaming series, or feature film. This will definitely be a little more speculative than some of the other titles we just mentioned, but like I said, the story sounds easily translatable to the screen. So once again, this is a spec bet if you choose to pick it up. Maybe worth doing so for the cover price. Grab this one here if you can. If you can't, put it on your B-list, but keep an eye on it. Next up from Image Comics, Weird Work #1. This is a 4-issue series described as a crime epic, reminiscent of LA Confidential, mixed with the bright alien-filled worlds of Futurama. Now this one here does sound like it lends itself very well to a small screen and big screen project, and you know, Image Comics has had a lot of their titles picked up and optioned in the past. Like we always say with these small press and indie publishers, if these books get optioned for small screen and big screen projects, these things blow up in the secondary market, so you definitely don't want to chase it down later on for a lot more money. It may be worth picking it up now for the cover price. This will be speculative, but it may be worth doing so. Grab it if you can. If you can't, put it on your B-list, but keep an eye on it. Next up from Marvel Comics, Captain America Symbol of Truth #750. This features the origin of Sam Wilson's new shield. Now, origin stories aren't often as sought after as first appearances, but when there's an origin story of a well-known artifact or a well-known weapon, well-known costume, well-known superpower, these are books that are often collected later on. And this is the origin story of Sam Wilson's new shield. It really depends on the role this new shield plays in the Captain America franchise or in the overall Marvel universe. So this one here will be a little bit more speculative if you choose to pick it up. You're specking on this new shield being a big deal in the Marvel universe. But for a couple bucks, you know, it may be worth picking up. Like I said, this is the origin story of a pretty well-known artifact or a similar artifact to the iconic Captain America shield. Maybe worth picking up for the cover price. Grab it if you can. If you can't, put it on your B-list and take a look at it later on. Next up from Marvel Comics, X-Men Before the Fall Sinister Four #1. This features the origin of the 4 Mr. Sinister clones. Now, like we just mentioned a moment ago, origin stories aren't often as sought after as first appearances, and this is the origin of 4 Mr. Sinister clones. It really depends on what Marvel does with these Mr. Sinister clones as to how important this origin story is going to be in the future. So this one here will be a little bit more speculative if you choose to pick it up. Maybe worth doing so for the cover price. Grab it if you can. If you can't, put it on your B-list and take a look at it later on. Next up from Marvel Comics, Spider-Man #10. This features a debut of a new Spider-Boy power. Now, we all know how hyped up and popular Spider-Boy is. A lot of people have been buying a lot of those Spider-Boy first appearances and a lot of the Spider-Boy variant covers. Now, I don't know if this popularity will maintain into the future, but if it does, this is the debut of a new power. This may be worth owning. Now, if this popularity is just a trend and goes nowhere, all these Spider-Boy books will just die in your collection. But like I said, if the popularity maintains, people do love this character becomes a mainstay in the Marvel Universe, then you definitely want to have the debut of these new powers. So this one here is probably worth picking up for the cover price. Like I said, if it goes somewhere, you're sitting on a winner. If it goes nowhere, you're out $3 or $4. Probably worth the risk. So grab this one here for your collection. And finally, for Marvel Comics, Thor Annual #1. In this issue, MODOK becomes Mythos. This also features a prolonged introduction to the upcoming series, The Immortal Thor. Now, the Thor franchise, once again, very popular, huge fan base, huge collector base. In this particular issue, MODOK becomes Mythos. We really don't know how important that character will be in the future, but you know, Marvel Disney is still churning out a ton of media, especially for the Thor franchise. You know, Thor is not going anywhere. He's definitely here to stay. And if this Mythos character becomes big in the future, you definitely want to own this book at the cover price. Grab this one here for your collection if you can. If you can't, then put it in your B-list, but definitely keep an eye on this one. So there you have the 14 titles we have for you guys this week. Definitely some books in there you guys should pick up for your collection. So please feel free to drop some comments in the comment section below. Thumbs up if you like this video. And as always, please remember to subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. Thank you for joining us here at Certified Collectibles, and we'll see you again next time.